how are you? My name is Belinda, I am an indie dyer from Germany, and today I wanted to start a little creative textile arts podcast because I really enjoy listening to podcasts of creative people while I do my knitting, my sewing, my dyeing, all the creative things that I do. I'm a native German speaker and I will try to pronounce my English as best as I can. What are we here to talk about today? I have two finished objects I want really badly to share and show you because one I'm very proud of. The other ones are two works in progress, or as you call them, WIPs. Two knitting ones today, and a new project that is a sewing project. So my first finished object that I finished a few hours ago is this super cute overall for my baby, and I'm so proud of it. It's so cool. It has a little collar and pockets. First, I can show you what pattern I used. It's a McCall's pattern. I found it on thefoldline.com. I really love their site. They have a lot of indie designers, but also patterns of the big sewing companies. It is M8461 and it is toddler's top, romper and pants. So not only do you get this really cute romper pattern, you also get the top that would be cut a little bit lower, and the pants. I wanted an easy project, and I know this doesn't look easy, and sewing it also hasn't been so easy, but it's still easier to buy a pattern, follow a pattern and just be done with it than I draft my pattern. So just having a pattern to follow has been a lot easier for me. Not that I didn't have to change something about it, and that's something I want to talk about. So this pattern is great, everything lined up, no errors there. They graded it really great. It's size 1 for my nearly 10-month-old. And when I sewed together the top, before I joined it to the trousers, I wanted to fit check with my baby, and I pulled it over its head and it got stuck. And yeah, my child has a very big head, so I had to improvise and cut the shirt further down, and I sewed in a little snap band. The snap bands are also in the trousers, so you can use it to change the little ones. So if you have a child with a very big head and you want to sew this pattern, I would recommend from the beginning altering the pattern a little bit so you can have a closure in the middle and not a closed shirt in the front. But yeah, that was a fiddly alteration. It is not the cleanest because just cutting the front open meant I hadn't any seam allowance to work with, so I kind of Frankenstein something in there. I bagged my snap tape with some fabric leftovers. I had a lot of fabric over. It's a pure cotton seersucker that I picked up from selfmade.com, I think 6 years ago. It has like a little crinkly structure. It really was enjoyable. So even if the pattern is a little bit advanced, the fabric made it easier for me. My next finished object is this fourth hat. And yeah, I knitted it with my own hand-dyed yarn. It's the Cashmerino base, so it's 80% superwash merino and 20% cashmere. It's my favorite base for making hats because the cashmere, first, it's supremely soft, it's cashmere, but it's also very warm. So this was my first fourth hat, completely in peach, and I had some peach left over, and I combined it with a little bit of cashmerino in viola I also really need to take pictures for Instagram with it, because for the first hat I did, and then I forgot about this. So I hope this looks good right now. Yes, I had not changed anything about the pattern. It's a gaugeless pattern, which I find just ingenious, because you start from the top and just start knitting until you have enough fabric that you take gauge. And then you have a table. If you have 6 stitches per inch, do that many increases, and then you just have a hat and don't have to do any gauge swatching. Very cool pattern. We'll make more of these. So now we come to the works in progress, or WIPs as you call them. I always have one hand knitting project, that's for when my son is taking a nap, and I have a machine knitting work in progress. So let's show you my hand knitting project first. This is the Jasmine Scarf by Pearl Soho. It's a free pattern. Ooh, and I've already knit this far. I think this is my second skein. And I have like around, what are you, 30 grams left. The pattern says for the small version you use 3 skeins, for the bigger version you use 4 skeins. I have a batch of 7 skeins in this colorway, so either way I should have enough for my scarf. You see, I had to stop mid-row because my child woke up and I have to stop knitting. I'm working with a DK yarn. It's called Soft and Silky, and it's again one of my yarns. It's made from 80% superwash merino yarn and 20% mulberry silk, and this is the colorway Platinum. I really like cool colors and slightly muted colors. Even my neutrals, like the gray, is a cool tone, so depending on the camera setting this might look bluish. In person it's like a metallic shimmering blue-gray, especially because of the silk. It's really nice and metallic and shimmery, so I thought it would make a really nice scarf. It has been years since I've worked with a cable needle, so I had to get in the groove a little bit. And I already asked on Instagram if you have any if you have any tricks or tips to working with cable needles. Many people say they don't use cable needles at all. I only do that if I have a cable of 1 or 2 stitches, because with the superwash yarn it's a little bit more slippery, especially with silk in it, so it's a little bit more difficult to let it hang. One person said she uses a removable stitch marker to hang all her stitches in it, and I think that is really cool. Next is my knitting machine whip. It's a sweater for my husband, and I know there's a curse that when you are knitting boyfriend a sweater you're gonna break up. Is it just a boyfriend curse? Is it also a husband curse? Is it okay if you knit your husband a sweater? It would be okay, right? It's the first sweater I'm doing for him. I wanted something very simple. It's just stockinette, and I have the front and the left arm finished. I took 2 yarns together, and it looks like a matrix pattern. If I took it sideways it looks like the matrix. So this is the matrix sweater. It makes a really nice effect, a little bit different from hand knitting. The pattern is a hand knitting pattern. It's the Ivan sweater. I bought the instructions and I've rewritten them to be worked on the knitting machine. I've already did this with a lot of raglan sweaters for my baby from Petit Knit, so I had experience in just transferring raglan to knitting machine. It's a nice stockinette pattern. You have 5 centimeters of 1-on-1 lip in the bottom, and the neck is shaped with short roll. Next I will knit the back and then the right arm. Then I will sew everything together. Recently I've gotten an overlock and I'm really debating if this should be the first project to try overlocking the seams. An overlock is called a serger in most other countries. In Germany we call it overlock. I think the both terms are interchangeable. So I'm debating if I will try to serge my machine knit seams. Perhaps it saves me some time. One thing that is bugging me a little bit is I was too hopeful with my yarn estimates. It's 2 strands of the Super Sock yarn, one in sage and one in pine. The Super Sock yarn is 75% superwash merino wool. If you might have already noticed, I specialized in superwash merino wool. I just find it the nicest on my skin and the most easy to care for. The colors are really nice on it, and I know superwash is a hot topic, but let's not get into it today. I only have 3 skeins of each color, and I put them together in big balls like this, and then I knitted with them. I had to frog the first sleeve because it was way too big. When you're knitting on a machine, you'll use weights. And with my other machine, you really have to use a lot of weights. But this machine, I think it doesn't like weights so much. So the usual amount of weights I put on my knitting was way too much, and the sleeve was stretched out far too long. The next try I did with the sleeve came out perfect. The gauge was correct, but you can see this is where I washed the yarn and then knitted again. I think when I washed the yarn after I frogged it, I used quite hot water and I left it in there probably for 2 hours because something was with the baby. I put it in the sink with some water and then I forgot about it and the yarn bled. I always write that the darker colors can bleed with the first wash, and it was my own negligence and my own scatterbrain that led to the pine, the darker color, bleeding a little bit into the sage yarn. Now there's a color difference. That was just stupid of me, but I don't have any more yarn. The worst thing that can happen is I have to dye 2 more skeins, so 1 more in sage and 1 more in pine. Yeah, my husband says he doesn't see it. I see it. Perhaps it's like something that only you see it because you made it. I hope so. I have to keep on knitting because I don't know if I have enough yarn. If I don't have enough yarn and I have to dye more anyway, then I probably will frog that part again and re-knit it in a more similar color. But we will see about that. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is the project I'm doing next. I need more tops that are sleeveless, and if I see something missing in my wardrobe, it's the first thing I think of when I draft my next pattern. So this is the back. It's for a knit fabric. I can show you the fabric. It's 1-on-1 ribbing from Mind the Maker. So it's cotton and the colorway is Dune. I love Mind the Maker and Meat Milk fabric. I use them a lot. I've already used this fabric in another top, so I think this will be fine. As you may see, this has a racer bag, and this is the first time I'm doing a racer bag. I'm curious of how this will turn out. The biggest difference between a racer bag top that I can buy in a store and one that I can make myself is the darts. Knit tops that you can buy in the store usually don't come with darts, and I would really need them. I will try to sew a new technique for my neck finishing, but I will tell you about it when I have it sewn and I can tell you if it was a good decision or not. Yeah, I will also try to update this like every 3 weeks. I know many podcasts update weekly, but I don't have a lifestyle where I can knit so much that I have very interesting and big updates to show every week. So I think 3 weeks is a very good timeline for me. I would love to get some comments, and perhaps we will see each other the next time. Okay, bye!